Good evening. My name is Sally Jo Levine, and I'm the president of National Council of Jewish Women, Michigan. We are dedicated to improving the lives of women, children, and families. We strive for a better and more equitable world. Knowledge is the key to making good decisions, and we fully support transparency. We feed seniors, make blankets for children in hospitals, work to sustain the world through initiatives that are green. We have a playground in Waterford that is accessible to all children. Our back to school projects give new clothes, books, and school supplies to 900 Detroit school children. We also provide backpacks to students in Oakland County. Tonight, we have the privilege of hearing from candidates who will give us a closer look as to where we stand on issues that affect us all. Please go to ncjwmi.org for more information. It is my pleasure to introduce Phil Newman.
Thank you very much, Sally Jo. On behalf of the Jewish Community Relations Council, American Jewish Committee of Detroit, I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's program featuring the State House candidates for the 5th, 18th, and 19th State House districts. I live in the 19th district, so I will be especially interested to hear from the candidates in my district. We are very pleased to work with NCJW Michigan on this important program and bring to you information about the candidates and their positions on the issues of the day. JCRC-AJC's mission is to represent the metropolitan Detroit Jewish community, Israel, and Jews throughout the world to the general community, and to establish collaborative relationships with other ethnic, racial, civic, and religious groups. JCRC-AJC educates and advocates on important issues, seeking consensus with a commitment to Jewish values. Some of the issues that we are most concerned with include immigration reform, criminal justice reform, gun violence prevention, and climate change. We look forward to a very lively discussion tonight on these and other issues of great importance to the Jewish community. Thank you to all of the candidates for joining us tonight, and we want to wish everyone a Shana Tova, a happy and healthy new year.
Thank you, Phil. Both Democratic and Republican candidates were invited from the districts represented in tonight's program. Although he was invited to participate, one candidate did not respond to our invitation. Two candidates were unable to attend, but each has sent a representative. It's my honor to welcome tonight's moderator, Jen Shands. Jen is an anchor and reporter for WXYZ TV. She's been in Detroit since 2019, and prior to that, worked as a reporter in Nebraska and upstate New York. She has won a regional Edward R. Murrow and Associates Press Award for her past reporting. Jen anchors weekend mornings and reports during the week on Channel 7.
Well, thank you very, very much to Sally Jo, and thank you to the National Council for Jewish Women. I appreciate this invitation. Also, a big thank you to JCRC and AJC for the invitation to be a part of this event. A quick round of housekeeping so everyone understands the rules, and then of course we'll get to introducing the candidates who are participating tonight. All candidates will be asked the same questions. Candidates will have 2.5 minutes for an opening statement and a response to the first question, and then 1 minute for each of the remaining questions. And candidates will be answering these questions in alternating order. And just so we're all on the same page, I will read the order prior to each question, and I'll remind you as well. When you have 15 seconds left on the clock, and I will have my stopwatch app on my phone open, you're going to see my hand go up. That's an indication that you have 15 seconds left. After that, I will let you know that you have passed your time, so that way we keep on a schedule. Now I would like to go ahead and introduce the candidates who have graciously given their time tonight. So their constituents, potential constituents, and interested voters hear what they have to say about some really important issues. So for District 5, Democratic candidate Natalie Price is unable to attend tonight, but she is represented by Amna Rizvi Toner, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. We also have Good. We also have Republican candidate Paul Toros running in District 5. District 18, we have Democratic candidate Jason Hoskins and Republican candidate Wendy Webster Jackson, who is she here yet? I know we were possibly expecting her to be late. Has she arrived yet? Does
No,
anyone
she
know?
has not.
Okay.
It's been closer to 7 o'clock.
Okay, got it. Sorry, I'm only seeing a little, I'm not seeing everyone on my screen. And then for District 19, we have State Representative Samantha Steckloff is not in attendance tonight. However, she is represented by Mayor Vicky Barnett of Farmington Hills, who is in her stead tonight, and Republican candidate Anthony Paisano, also running in District 19. So we thank you all candidates for taking the time to participate tonight. All right, I will go ahead now and read your first question. This is also an opportunity, as a reminder, candidates, for your opening statement. And again, you will have 2.5 minutes for both your opening statement and the response to this question. This is the rotating order. We're going to go for question number 1. We're going to start with Amna Rizvi Toner in for Natalie Price. Then we will go to candidate Paul Toros, Jason Hoskins. After Jason Hoskins, we will go to candidate Wendy Webster Jackson, assuming she is here on time. After that, we will go to Vicky Barnett representing Samantha Steckloff, and then to candidate Anthony Paisano. Okay, so Amna Rizvi Toner, I'm going to begin with you. Speaking for Natalie Price, what are your top 3 legislative priorities, and how will you reach across the aisle to achieve progress and to solve problems? You have 2.5 minutes.
Hey, thank you. So I just want to say that Natalie was disappointed she couldn't attend tonight, but she did prepare this opening statement for me to read. So Natalie, I will read it in her voice, the first person. She is I am a current city council member, a former teacher, and a mom. When I moved here with my husband and 2 young children, I, like all of us, craved support and connection. I needed a village, but I didn't realize that my village would need me too. I signed up for the local parent taught class only to learn that there was no teacher and decided to step up and teach. I became the administrative vice president of the Moms Club when they needed someone to lead service projects. I heard of plans to build a free play space for children under 5, a project that needed an organizer, and became a co-creator of the backyard playroom. I found the connection I was looking for. More importantly, I learned just how much we can accomplish in our communities when we value our diversity, combine our strengths, and work together. My top 3 priorities include advocating for education, the environment, and intentionally inclusive and safe communities. As a former high school English teacher, I've seen how subpar education policy has a direct impact on students' lives and futures, and how improving funding and policy can benefit kids in every classroom across Michigan. I support increasing per pupil funding and making our funding models more equitable to boost the most under-resourced schools and students with the greatest needs. My plan for preserving Michigan's vast natural resources and green spaces includes both investing in renewable energy to promote sustainability and create new high-quality jobs for Michigan workers, and also holding corporate polluters accountable for the contamination they cause. We must also create intentionally inclusive communities. I will fight for fair wages and affordable health and mental health care for all, including access to legal and safe abortion care. I will advocate for our legislator to both acknowledge and address disparities in healthcare and employment among people in protected classes and underserved populations. I will also collaborate with the Department of Health and Human Services to draft bills and strengthen the safety net for children, seniors, families, and those needing mental health treatment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amna. Now moving on to candidate Paul Toros. Paul, would you like me to repeat that question for you?
No, that's fine. Thank you for inviting me, and Happy New Year to everybody. My name is Paul Toros, and I'm running for state representative in the 5th District as a Republican. I grew up in Livonia, graduated from the University of Michigan, and went on to obtain my MBA from Wayne State University. I have owned and operated my own CPA firm for over 30 years. I volunteered and had the privilege to serve 6 years on the Parish Council of St. George Greek Orthodox Church and 4 years as their treasurer. During that time, I discovered that the church secretary was embezzling funds. After discussing this with the priest and parish council, I collected the evidence and turned it over to the police. Speaking of corruption, after 4 years of Governor Whitmer's lack of leadership, it's no longer fix the damn roads, it's fix the damn state. We have seen the unemployment agency defrauded of millions of dollars with fraudulent claims. Governor Whitmer's unconstitutional executive orders caused many small businesses to close. Governor Whitmer and her family lived carefree lives in violation of her own executive orders, while the citizens of Michigan were in lockdown. Our Attorney General, Dana Nessel, has stated that she will lawlessly ignore state laws if she does not agree with them. Our Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, broke the law by sending out unsolicited absentee ballot requests using out-of-date voter registration files. This fraud and lawlessness needs to stop. It's time for Lansing to work for the citizens of Michigan. Let's fix Michigan by ending corporate welfare, fixing our roads and infrastructure, and improving our children's education. For far too long, the Strategic Fund and the MEDC have been used to reward wealthy political donors and their well-connected friends. Please go to my website, timeforterrace.com, to learn more about my campaign.
Candidate Paul Terrace, thank you very much. Moving on now to candidate Jason Hoskins, District 18. And let me repeat this question for you. What are your top 3 legislative priorities and how will you reach across the aisle to make progress? Also, include please your opening statement, 2.5 minutes.
All right, thank you. And thank you so much for having me here tonight. Again, I am Jason Hoskins, running for District 18, which covers Southfield, Farmington Hills, Lathrop Village, and Oak Park. I am currently serving as a city councilman in the city of Southfield. I was first elected in 2019. I also served for almost a decade in the state legislature, working for 2 legislators who represented parts of my either parts or all of my potential new district. And in a place that has some of the strictest term limits in the state legislature, we need experience that will be ready on day one to be able to tackle the issues that are important to our community. You know, when I first was elected in 2019, I never thought that I'd be serving during a global pandemic, as many people who were elected during that time did. But, you know, in Southfield, we were able to overcome and really be able to do so great things for our community. And some of these things and some of the lessons that I learned from my service on city council and my time as a legislative staffer, I think will really help me tackle the important issues, like making sure our cities have the funding that they need to be able to thrive. One of the biggest issues that we always hear about is making sure that our communities have the funding that they need for police, for fire, for parks. And that is an issue that is a structural issue that needs to be addressed. And it's something that I'm hoping to work on in the state legislature. Another big issue that I hope to work on is housing, access to it, the affordability of it. It is a big issue when we're trying to attract people to our community and to our state. And it's something that I've worked on both as a city council person, creating housing for seniors in particular in our community. And I also want to make sure that I'm protecting and doing everything we can to protect our rights. And that includes our right to vote, a right to bodily autonomy, and making sure that your rights in regards to the criminal justice system are protected. As a lawyer and somebody who used to be a board member for the ACLU, it is something that I work to make sure we're protecting every day here in Michigan. So I hope to talk more about that as the forum goes on, but thank you again.
Candidate Hoskins, thank you very much. And it looks like Representative Samantha, it looks like candidate Wendy Webster Jackson is still not here. So given that, we are going to move on to Mayor Vicky Barnett, who is standing in for Rep. Samantha Steckloff, District 19. Mayor Barnett, same question to you, the top 3 legislative priorities, how you would reach across the aisle, and please also include the opening statement for Rep. Steckloff.
Will do. It's kind of, I'm going to do what's been done earlier, and that is I'm going to begin with a statement in first person. But remember, I'm acting as Samantha Steckloff right now and not as Vicki Barnett. Hello, I'm State Representative Samantha Steckloff, and I'm proud to be running for re-election to serve the people of the new 19th House District. I've used student loans to fund my education, graduated in the worst recession of our lifetime, battled breast cancer and outrageous medical bills. I've seen how Michigan is broken, but more importantly, I've been inspired and empowered to help fix it. From being on Farmington Hills City Council to now serving as a representative in Lansing, I've dedicated my past decade to our state and the community that I love. By working together, we can create an amazing future for all of us. I want to point out now that her 3 top issues are healthcare, education, and the environment. As a breast cancer survivor, Sam has seen firsthand how the quality of healthcare can save lives. Giving everyone access to the care they need is possible. And during her time in the legislature, she's introduced several bills to make services such as mammograms and pap smears more accessible to younger women. And she's proud to have supported legislation that makes prescription drug costs more affordable. And most importantly, she is fighting to protect women's reproductive health rights across the state and indeed the nation as well. This is important to her because as a breast cancer survivor, her only hope of having children at this point is to use IVF to find a surrogate and to that way start a family that she so desperately wants. And there is a concern among women across this state that if the old abortion law of 1931 is reenacted, that women will lose those rights, possibly lose right to contraception, and healthcare is an important need. Education yesterday was a big win. More money was put into the Reconnect Michigan program, and she's looking forward to making sure that all kids have an equal education and a high quality education, from lower class sizes to equality, not only in funding education, but in funding facilities. And finally, we need to prepare for the environmental change of climate change and be prepared to rebuild our infrastructure to accommodate ongoing floods and other changes in the environment that will take up our infrastructure. And as we just saw in Florida, possibly create havoc among our state. And we want to welcome any
And
kind of refugees.
That is
that come our way.
just about time, Mayor Bartlett.
I'm done.
Mayor Bartlett speaking on behalf of Rep. Samantha Steckloff. Thank you very much. And I
You're welcome.
see that candidate Wendy Webster Jackson has joined us. Candidate Jackson, can you hear us?
Yes.
Thank you
Can you
for
hear me?
joining us. Yes, I
Okay.
can. So you missed just the beginning, the intro, some housekeeping rules for you. You will have 2.5 minutes to provide an opening statement for us and to answer this question. And then for each of the questions that follow, you will have 1 minute to answer. So for this first question, you will have 2.5 minutes to answer, and I will be using my stopwatch on my phone. When you have 30 seconds, rather 15 seconds left, you will see my hand go up like this.
Okay.
All right, so first, what are your top 3 legislative priorities and how will you reach across the aisle to achieve progress and solve problems? 2.5 minutes on the clock.
Yes. Thank you for having me. Good evening, everyone. Firstly, my first legislation agenda would be education. I see that we have a lot of problems in our schools, and I want to make sure our teachers are being funded as they should. I want those people to be happy. I want our teachers to be happy. We have an enormous budget. We have over we have a $4.5 billion education budget here. And I want our teachers to be happy. I want them to have a good benefits package. So that's the first thing. I want to make sure our teachers are taken care of. The second thing I want to make sure is our public safety. I want all of our public safety, because the district I would be representing would be Lathrop Village, I have a small part of Oak Park. I have Southfield, part of Southfield, Farmington Hills. I want to make sure our officers are well paid and have excellent benefit packages, because I want them to be happy. I want them to come to work every day and say, you know what, I got into this because I want to protect and serve people, but I'm glad I actually can afford to buy a house and to live comfortably. So I want them to be happy. So that's one of the things that I want. So, and I just noticed that Farmington, because I go to their city council meetings, I've noticed Farmington, they were able to get maybe, I think $155,000 that they used to get new body cameras for the police. They got new weapons because every 7 to 10 years you have to replace the weapons. So I want them to be able to, in my district, to be able to have what they need. So that's number 2. And number 3, me being a doctor, I'm big on health. And I always said, I want to keep everyone alive. So I want to sponsor legislation to keep everyone alive, keep them healthy, and to keep money in their pocket. So as far as that with healthcare, I want to start off with the basics. And the basics is to keep yourself healthy, which is by healthy food. And I want to source Michigan farms to get most of our food we can get. That way we don't have to worry about all the transportation coming from other states. Let's use Michigan farmers to feed our people in Michigan. And if it's extra, then we send it off. But that way it can cut down on, we don't know where listeria comes in. Does it come in on the shipping, the E. coli outbreak? So I want to do that. And I'm also big on stop smoking cigarettes, because there are certain things you can do to take care of your health. And I won't back down to that, and to stop a lot of some things that may be considered
And Dr. Webster, I apologize that is time for that question.
Okay,
We
thank
appreciate
you.
the response. I do want to move on so we make sure that everyone has an opportunity to answer. Candidate Anthony Paisano, District 19, same question, and time for your opening statement. Your 3 top legislative priorities, how you would reach across the aisle to get things done. Again, 2.5 minutes on the clock. Do we see candidate Paisano? Anthony, do you hear us? I think you're still muted, Anthony. There we go.
Can you hear me now? Okay, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity and forum. And it's a pleasure meeting Representative Steckloff's mother, Mayor Barnett. I was born and raised here in Oakland County. I met and married my wife here, and we are raising our family here with our kids attending public schools. I've been an attorney for 23 years and small businessman for more than 10. I started my law firm, Paisano Occasion, out of my basement in 2011, and it has become one of Michigan's premier boutique corporate transactions and litigation firms. I am running for state representative because I am concerned about the direction our state is going. We need elected leaders who are beholden to their communities, not beholden to Lansing special interests.
All right, well, these are not the ones that I have to listen
I will be
to.
a voice for small business. I am the picture of small business. I own small businesses. I have been counseling small businesses on financial and growth issues for over 23 years. Our small businesses have been struggling the last 3 years. And I know what it takes to start a small business and to navigate an increasingly hostile regulatory structure. I will be a voice for parents. The COVID shutdowns and the increasing politicization of the classroom has exposed legitimate questions about the focus of our public schools. Parents need and they deserve a say in that discussion. We need to be focused on best-in-class curriculum and not advancing a progressive social agenda in our schools. We already have a massive literacy and math gap in Farmington Hills schools and other schools within the 19th district. I will be a voice for public safety. Crime is rising throughout the state. 8 cities in Michigan are among the 50 most violent in the country. I oppose defunding the police. I oppose reducing the number of officers on the street. I oppose the elimination of cash bail, so there's more criminals on the streets. I oppose making it easier for criminals to sue the police through elimination of qualified immunity, something that my opponent supports. The question, Jennifer, was, what will you do to reach across the aisle? I'm not so concerned about the R or the D next to your name. I think we need to sit down, come up with common sense solutions to problems that are impacting all of our lives and families. Thank you.
Candidate Paisano, thank you very much for that question. We are moving on now for all candidates to the second question. You will all have 1 minute to answer this question. The same procedure as the last time. When you have 15 seconds left, you will see my hand go up. And the order for this is first from District 5 candidate Paul Terros, from District 18 candidate Jason Hoskins, District 18 candidate Wendy Webster Jackson. Then we will have Mayor Barnett speaking on behalf of Rep. Samantha Steckloff. Then we will have candidate Anthony Paisano. And then for this round, we will finish with Amna Rizney-Toner. So we begin with candidate Paul Terros. Candidate Terros, what measures do you support to improve and secure elections and the voting process in our state? And what is your position or your reasons for that position on ballot proposal 2, Prop 2, Promote the Vote 2022? 1 minute.
Well, for far too long, we have seen when we go to recount ballots, we have been unable to recount them because the total votes in the tabulator are more than the number of ballots in the bag. That needs to stop. It's not rocket science, and it leads to the appearance that there's voter fraud. There's many other instances. There's concern about the security of drop boxes, of unsolicited absentee ballot applications being mailed out. So we need to tighten up the voting because that's the most important thing we have, is the right to vote. And we need to just make sure that everybody votes counts.
Candidate Terros, we have run out of time, but I did just want to give you the opportunity to clarify your position on Prop 2.
I am against it.
Thank you, candidate Terros. Moving on, candidate Jason Hoskins, same questions. What measures do you support to improve and secure elections and voting access in our state? Where do you stand on ballot proposal 2 and why? 1 minute.
Well, starting with the last part there, I'm in complete support of ballot proposal 2. I'm supportive of this. I'm supportive Promote the Vote's last ballot initiative, which was actually the winningest thing on the ballot when it was on the ballot. And this is something that I've been working on for a number of years. In fact, we talk about being able to work on both sides to be able to get things done. I worked on legislation that actually gave county clerks more time to count ballots, and turns out that was something that we desperately needed here in Michigan. But even going forward, there are a number of number of initiatives and things, some of them which are in the Promote the Vote ballot initiative that I certainly support. Making sure we allow early voting, making sure we create a permanent absentee ballot list. So once you sign up, you're just on the ballot list, but also making sure that we don't have things that are going against our rights to vote. For example, making sure voting against voter ID laws.
I apologize. You have hit time. I did not mean to cut you off. I just want to make sure we stay on a schedule. We appreciate you answering that question. Moving on now to our third candidate here, candidate Wendy Webster Jackson, running in District 18. Same question for you. And would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Sure. Candidate Wendy Webster Jackson, please indicate to the viewers watching, what measures do you support to improve and secure elections and voting access in our state? And where do you stand on ballot proposal 2 and why? And you will have 1 minute for this response.
I am from the school of actually going out to vote. I do believe people who are disabled should use the absentee ballot. I believe that. But I think it's something important about using our right to stand in line if possible, to go ahead and do that. I think that's so important. That way you need your voter ID also. And Michigan already uses voter ID or an affidavit affidavit, a citizen signature. But that's just my personal opinion, that you need to go and feel your civic responsibility, because other countries, they stand in line for hours, hundreds and thousands of people always vote. We have such a poor turnout. But as far as the secured election, make sure our clerks are handling their job correctly. And also, I'm against Prop 2. And also, just to say, as a business owner, we definitely need to make sure that everyone is voting, then their vote is counted. I believe in that. And you have to have voter integrity. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Webster Jackson. Now turning things over to Mayor Vicky Barnett, speaking on behalf of Rep. Samantha Steckloff, running in District 18.
Samantha is, am I on? Okay, Samantha is fully in support of Proposal 2, and she also signed the petition. There has been no proven difficulties in voting in the state of Michigan, no defects, no problems, no fraud. That was proven by an in-depth study taken on by senators in the state Senate this year, including Senator McBroom, who headed the committee. I believe that Samantha believes, that we should also increase not only expand absentee voting, but make sure that there are more secure lock boxes to put those ballots in, and make sure that the signatures are collected on those absentee ballots to make sure that they match the signature that is on record. She also believes that there should be early voting, at least 9 days, up to 15 days of early voting. The cornerstone of democracy in this country is the right to vote, and that should not be abridged by any government. And in fact, it should be expanded where possible. We now have technology that can make sure that the ballot boxes remain secure. And through our voting system, we also have backup ballots. Not every state has backup ballots, paper ballots.
Mayor Barnett, I apologize, that is time. Thank you for your
It's short
response.
time.
I know, a minute flies by.
Yes, sorry.
It really does. Yes. Turning things over now to candidate Anthony Paisano in District 19. Just making sure. Yes, that is the right order. Sorry, I needed to double check that. I want to make sure we're not skipping anyone. Candidate Paisano, what measures do you support to improve and secure elections and voting access in our state? And where do you stand on ballot Proposal 2 and why? 1 minute, please.
Thank you. I oppose Proposal 2. I believe it is a liberal codification of laws that would benefit Democrats over Republicans. Secretary of State Benson arbitrarily changed the rules of the election to benefit Democrats. That's not in question. She sent absentee ballots to every voter, regardless of eligibility. She instructed clerks to ignore legally required signature verification and was overruled by the state courts, unfortunately, after the election, so there's no way to know what fraudulent votes were cast. She allowed Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg to fund election workers and absentee ballot drop boxes in Democrat areas. I believe we should require voter ID for all voters. And I'm not alone. 80% of voters support voter ID, including a majority of Black voters and a plurality of Democrats. The only demographic that doesn't support it is elected Democrats. We have an obligation to assure voters, regardless of party, of the security and integrity of our election systems.
Candidate Paisano, thank you for your response. Amna Rizvi Toner, speaking on behalf of candidate Natalie Price, running in District 5. Same question for you, and would you like me to repeat it?
No, that's okay. Thank you. So Natalie believes that we have a safe and secure election process, and the attempts to spread mistrust about the voting process in 2020 are a direct attack on our democracy. She believes that we must counteract fear with facts in order to sustain and increase participation in our election process. Voters strengthened our democracy when they amended our state constitution in 2018 to enable no reason absentee voting and required automatic voter registration. When more people participate, our democracy gets stronger. I support such changes. Natalie supports such changes that empower more eligible voters to participate, and will fight against any changes to election laws that limit participation in our democratic process. Thank you.
Thank you, Amna. All right, moving on to question 3, we will begin with candidate Jason Hoskins, followed by the response from candidate Wendy Webster Jackson. Then we will hear from Mayor Barnett speaking on behalf of Rep. Steckloff, running in District 19, followed by candidate Paisano, then Amna Rizvi Toner speaking on behalf of candidate Price, followed by candidate Palteros for question 3. Beginning with candidate Hoskins running in District 18, what is your position and your reasons for that position on the right of an individual to make reproductive choices? And what is your position and reason for position on ballot proposal 3, reproductive freedom for all? 1 minute for this response.
All right. Well, this is going to go all the way to that minute. Well, actually, no. I am completely for the ballot initiative. Supportive of it, and I've always been supportive of a woman's right to choose what to do with her body. This is an economic decision as much as it is a healthcare decision, and it's something that should not be determined by politicians at any level of government. It should be determined by a person and their doctor. Actually, that was pretty short. That's it.
All right, candidate Hoskins, thank you for that response. Moving on to candidate Wendy Webster Jackson, same question to you, your position on ballot proposal 3 and why. You have 1 minute for this response.
I say no to that. I am going to be the one to speak up for the unborn because it sounds like reproductive freedom, but I believe that women should be responsible enough not to go out and have all this illicit sex with different people, and that would prevent a lot of problems, and you don't have to worry about an abortion. Someone has to speak for the unborn, and I will take that hard road in an area where everyone wants to have an abortion because they don't want to feel inconvenienced with a child. However, I will not force a woman to have a child she does not want, but I will not celebrate a choice to lose a child that could have been born and could have been great. I will lament that choice at each time, and I will not apologize for that. So I say no, I speak for the unborn. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Webster Jackson. Now moving on to Mayor Barnett, speaking on behalf of Rep. Steckloff running in District 19, her position on ballot proposal number 3 and why. 1 minute.
As I mentioned in the opening statement, Samantha Steckloff is fully in line with supporting proposal 3. This is a very important issue. It crosses religious lines as well as choice lines. And in the Jewish religion, a child is not human and humanly born until it takes its first breath. And that is true doctrine. You mourn differently for an infant than you do for an adult who has passed away. And this is more than just about abortion. It's about female healthcare and allowing women to make decisions over their own body. And that also includes making sure that people who are having problem pregnancies can get the care they need so that they're not forced into situations where they can bleed to death or come through with a very, very sad outcome of becoming infertile. So this is a broad question, and I support a woman's right to choose, and you have a right not to choose an abortion, but you do have the right to choose contraception and to make your own decisions over your own body. Human autonomy is important.
Thank you for that response. Moving on to candidate Anthony Paisano, also running in District 19. Your position, candidate, on ballot proposal 3, reproductive freedom for all, and why? And as a reminder, you have 1 minute for this response.
Thank you, Jennifer. I am pro-life and anti-abortion, but I'm not running for state representative to be the moral authority on such a personal and I'm sure a very difficult decision for any mother. However, I do believe we should make exceptions for rape and incest or health of the mother. And I support a federal ban at 15 weeks. Only 7 countries in the world allow abortion later than 15 weeks, including human rights violators, China and North Korea. I don't think that's the company we want to keep. My opponent is very radical on the issue. She supports taxpayer funding of abortion up to the point of birth, allowing non-doctors to perform abortions, and the elimination of parental consent for a minor to get an abortion. That is one of the most radical positions of any legislator in the state. And that is not where a majority of Michiganders are on the issue. I am opposed to Proposal 3, which I think is radical and would give Michigan the most extreme abortion policy in the country. Thank you.
I have a quick
Thank you.
question. At what point am I allowed to respond to direct attacks on Samantha's positions?
It's my understanding that we are not allowing responses to any candidate responses. We're not allowing that. This is an opportunity for everyone to answer questions, and you're given the same amount of time.
Okay. then I
And
wish
and
every
Lynn, Sally,
candidate-
Joe, if you want to correct that, jump in, but that's my understanding, the format and the rules of this forum.
Okay, then I would wish any candidate who is appearing today not disparage any other candidate by assuming their positions and stating that publicly when they're not true. Thank you.
If Representative Steckloff supports Proposal 3, she supports everything that is Proposal 3, which are all the issues that I just identified.
Candidate Paisano and Mayor Barnett, I will remind you that this is a Meet the Candidates Forum. This is not a debate platform. So I just want to remind everyone of the rules. This is just a Meet the Candidates Forum. This is not a formal debate. So we will not be allowing, and time does not permit for responses to each question, although I'm sure all of you have a lot to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moving on now to, I believe, and Sally, Joe, and Lynn, I believe Amna Rizvi Toner is next on our third question, which just followed candidate Paisano. So Amna, who is representing candidate Price running in District 5, same question, 1 minute on the clock for you, her position on ballot Proposal 3 and why.
Natalie supports reproductive freedom. Denying people access to legal and safe abortions will cost lives and disproportionately harm people in historically marginalized communities. Access to legal and safe abortion care is an essential element of access to affordable quality health care, which all people deserve. The legislature should pass the Reproductive Health Act and guarantee everyone's right to choose. Natalie also supports the ballot initiative for the Michigan Right to Reproductive Freedom, which would restore the protections we had under Roe here in Michigan. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm not speaking on behalf of candidate Price. Wrapping up the responses for question 3 is candidate Paul Teros running in District 5. Your response, candidate, your position on ballot proposal number 3 and why, and you have 1 minute for this response.
I oppose Proposal 3, and I'm proud to join Dr. Wendy Webster Jackson to be a voice for the unborn. One of the most important roles of government is to protect those least able to protect themselves. And I cannot think of anything more vulnerable than an unborn child. The state already requires parents to care for their child from birth to age 18. Maybe it's time, in fact, I know it's time, that we lower the starting time of care from birth to prenatal.
Thank you, candidate Teros. We are now moving on, candidates, to the fourth question of the evening. This is on a very important topic that I'm sure everyone watching here finds important. What should the legislature do, if anything, to ensure an equitable quality education is provided for all Michigan students pre-K through grade 12? And the second part to this question, how should the legislature address the ongoing teacher shortage? You have 1 minute for this response. We begin with candidate Wendy Webster Jackson.
Okay, for this question here, and I have actual children that are in the school system. I have a 3rd grade and a high school student. What I believe to get all the schools on the same page. Fortunately, my school district are a little bit more financially above water than maybe Detroit. But I still believe that we need to go into that budget is over $4.5 billion for education. We need to go and find out to get more money and increase that funding for students, which is $9,150 right now. We need to increase that. And we have to make it equitable across all boards because every child deserves a chance to be successful. And also the last part, how do we do teacher shortage? pay them more money. I believe teachers should make more money and have excellent benefit packages. They take care of our children. Who is in a better position to make more money than the people who we entrust our kids with to nurture them at the time they have? They have them for 8 hours a day. And a lot of times you come home, you see your kids for probably 3 or 4 hours in this bedtime, and you see them on the weekend. You need to pay those people. Thank you.
I apologize.
Thank
You have hit time on that question. Thank you for your response. We are moving on now to Mayor Vicky Barnett, who is representing State Rep Samantha Steckloff. In this question, and again, you will have 1 minute for this, Mayor Barnett. What should the legislature do, if anything, to ensure an equitable quality education for Michigan students pre-K through 12? And how would you address the ongoing teacher shortage?
First, I want to make one correction to the state school aid budget. K through 12 cost the state approximately $14.5 billion, not 4.5. And Samantha believes that we need to provide universal pre-K so that every child is ready to learn when they are able to go to school. Increase access to skilled trades in community colleges by lowering the age of Reconnect Michigan from 26 to 21, which provides free tuition, creating a state loan program which provides free tuition. She wants to create a state loan program for higher education with a 1% interest rate so that people aren't forced to borrow and never be able to pay back those loans. She also wants to reduce class size to 20 students and provide more full oversight over charter schools. Teachers have continued to struggle with stagnant wages and additional schooling with increased tuition costs. They have to find their master's degree and pay for that themselves. Teachers are leaving the field at alarming rates, and so we need to open up the doors to allow teachers to move here from other states where they've been certified so they can fill in, and also to provide student loan forgiveness for teachers who decide to teach in underserved areas. And she also wants to make sure that there's enough money to
Mayor Barnett, I apologize.
Facilities for
You
underserved
have hit
areas.
time. Thank you. Moving on to candidate Anthony Paisano, also running in District 19. What should the legislature do, if anything, to provide a more equitable quality education to Michigan students pre-K through 12? And how would you address the ongoing teacher shortage? 1 minute on the clock for you. And candidate Paisano, hear us?
Thank you, Jennifer. I'll figure out how the mute button works eventually.
No problem.
The reason I'm running for state representative is because of my children and because of their education. I have a son who's on the autism spectrum. I thank God every day that he had wonderful teachers and wonderful paraprofessionals to get him through school and get him prepared for college. I support legislation that prioritizes parental input over teachers' unions and government bureaucrats. I will oppose any legislation or funding of districts where the focus is on anything other than reading, writing, and arithmetic. I oppose politics in the classroom. I support student opportunity scholarships to pay for educational expenses for tutoring and even tuition at a private school, and creating scholarships by giving tax credits to individuals and companies making contributions to scholarship granting organizations. We should be measuring education success by the outputs, not the inputs. We need to put the emphasis on STEM, not CRT, not gender identity, but kids preparing themselves academically for college or pursuing a vocation. I agree with Dr. Wendy Jackson. We need to pay our teachers more. We need to figure out how to allocate resources from the budget to get our teachers paid more. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Paisano. Now we're going to hear from Amna Rizvi Toner, speaking on behalf of candidate Price, running in District 5. How would you ensure a more equitable education for all Michigan students pre-K through 12, and how would you address the ongoing teacher shortage?
So as a former teacher, Natalie is very concerned about the state of public education. She believes we must increase per pupil funding and adjust funding to take into account students with the greatest needs. She also believes that we should implement recommendations from the School Finance Research Collaborative and MSU's Education Policy Report from January 2019. The MSU report provides a framework for how the state can allocate more resources to at-risk students and students with special needs, offer free high-quality preschool programs, and adjust teacher salaries and retirement benefits to keep up with inflation. The MSU report notes that inflation-adjusted at-risk funding per at-risk student has plunged by over 60% since 2001. It also offers solutions for raising the additional revenue that is needed to better fund schools, including a graduated income tax. Natalie also supports Governor Whitmer's proposed $1 billion investment in school infrastructure, which will help provide safe learning environments for all. Thank you.
Amna, thank you. Speaking on behalf of candidate Price in District 5. Now we go to candidate Paul Terros, also running in District 5. Candidate, what should the legislature do, if anything, to ensure an equitable quality education for Michigan students? And how would you address the shortage of teachers?
We need to stop teaching sex and gender theory and get back to teaching the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. We need to teach children how to think, not what to think. And we need to hold teachers accountable and administrators for the education of the children. If they're not producing college-ready or technically skilled graduates, then they should be penalized. And I think that will encourage both teachers and administrators to take responsibility for their districts and improve the outcomes for the children in that district.
Candidate Terros, thank you. And I want to apologize for any audio distraction on my end. I believe that there was an issue with my phone, so I apologize for that if I distracted anyone. Moving on now, Candidate Hoskins, running in District 18. Your question on schools. What should the legislature do to improve equitable access to education in Michigan? And what would your response be to the ongoing teacher shortage?
Yeah, we've funded our schools. We've been lucky enough to be able to fund schools now at record levels, but we still continue to fund schools equally and equitably. And it's something that we should be addressing, instituting a system to be able to, just like Amna was saying on behalf of Natalie Price, making sure that we are instituting a process that targets the most at-risk students in our schools. And being able to get the funding that we need has to be a priority. And not only making sure that we are funding the education that our students are getting, but also making sure that we are getting the teachers that we need. Over 10,000 teachers, certified teachers, have left the teaching profession. It's because of the low morale that they face on a daily basis. And so we need to be able to create incentive programs, to create tuition reimbursement programs for teachers or people who decide to go into the teaching profession. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to hold exploitive for-profit charter schools that also hurt our education system as well, hold them accountable.
That unfortunately is time, Candidate Hoskins. I apologize. I know that 1 minute does fly by. I appreciate all of your patience. We are moving on now to question 5. We will begin with Mayor Barnett speaking on behalf of Rep. Samantha Steckloff. On November 30th of 2021, as we all remember, there was a deadly mass shooting in Oxford, Michigan at Oxford High School. 4 students were killed, 7 others were hurt, including a teacher, the suspect, a fellow student. There have been numerous other mass shootings around the country. What steps, if any, should be taken to curb gun violence in our communities? Mayor Barnett, 1 minute.
Yes, Samantha believes in common sense gun laws that will regulate sale and ownership of guns, that would increase funding for red flag laws and make sure that people who have been convicted of any kind of domestic violence have their guns taken away. or secured for a period of time. She also believes that universal background checks are important and to close the convention and gun show loophole. She also believes that we should control the size of the magazines for guns that are available now to a reasonable number of maybe 15 shots or fewer, and that in order to own an assault rifle, you should be age 21. She also believes that people should have access to free gun locks and storage facilities, and that gun safety is a priority for people who decide to purchase a firearm.
Mayor Barnett, speaking on behalf of Rep. Samantha Steckloff, running in District 19. Thank you very much for that response. Candidate Anthony Paisano, also running in District 19. How would you approach curbing gun violence in our communities? What steps, if any, should be taken? You have 1 minute for this response.
Thank you, Jennifer. Like a lot of questions that are very sensitive to many throughout the state, whether it be abortion or gun control, I don't believe there's a simple answer. I believe as state representatives, we have a job to get in there, listen to different points of view, respect the constitutional rights of those gun owners that are responsible, that do follow all the laws, that keep their guns locked. This is a difficult decision, or this is a difficult question, especially to answer in a minute, because I have 2 children. And what happened in Oxford was just devastating. I'm not going to be I'm not foolish to sit here and try to tell you what I believe is the best solution. I do believe in taking steps to limit putting guns in the hands of the wrong people. I'm open to listening to any type of proposals, any type of agendas to further that interest and further the interest of our students and our parents. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate Paisano. Amna Rizvi Toner, speaking on behalf of candidate Natalie Price in District 5. Your response to this question: what steps, if any, should be taken to curb gun violence in our communities? 1 minute for this response.
Yeah, thanks. So Natalie wants to emphasize that the Second Amendment does not imply that all weapons should be available to all people. She supports a ban on assault weapons, automatic firearms, silencers, explosive ordnance, and other NFA weapons. Natalie believes guns must be kept away from people who pose a real threat to themselves or others, and that we must require mandatory universal background checks. Natalie also supports red flag laws, which allow police or family members to petition a state court to temporarily confiscate guns from people who pose a threat to themselves or others. Thanks.
Thank you, Amna. Candidate Paul Taros, running in District 5. What should be done, if any steps taken, to curb gun violence in our communities?
We already have thousands of gun laws that criminals ignore. So more laws are not the solution. And when you hear a school shooting, I mean, I think everybody cries when things like that, tragedies like that happen. But I think we need to look and focus on educating our children about the sanctity of life, and instill more morality in the kids, because if they have a moral compass, they're not going to turn and shoot on other students. They also need I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought.
No problem, candidate. You have a few moments left. Do you want to wrap up the response for that question?
We need to stop the bullying in schools. I think that's a major contributing factor to these school shootings. So if we can stop the bullying, that would go a long way.
Candidate Paul Taros, thank you. Candidate Jason Hoskins, running in District 18. What steps, if any, should be taken to curb gun violence?
Sure. I believe that we should, for example, raise the age to buying a gun to 21. In fact, many of the tragedies that we've seen around the country, and one in particular, one of the one of the shooters waited until his 18th birthday to go and to go buy a gun. And if he were able, if he didn't have the opportunity to do that, maybe this tragedy would have not happened. But also some of the other things that the fellow candidates have brought up, supporting mandatory universal background checks, enacting red flag laws, limiting the size of gun magazines, requiring safe storage gun laws, making sure we end the gun show loophole, and also, of course, addressing a lot of the mental health issues that come from a lot of these shooters. There's a lot of issues around being able to get access to the information that drives a lot of these people to do these things. And that's something we should also look at as well as we're addressing the total issue of gun violence.
Thank you, candidate Hoskins. Moving on, and this will be our final response for question 5 from candidate Dr. Wendy Webster Jackson. Candidate, what steps, if any, should be taken to curb gun violence? 1 minute for this response.
Firstly, I do believe in the Second Amendment, and I also believe that we should have some background checks. However, I also believe that everyone in that house that has a gun, the children need to be educated on the gun safety, because many shootings happen with children because they think it's a toy. You have to teach these children they are not toys. My children are in the Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. They know how to shoot a rifle. They know how to shoot a gun. So you cannot say because a child is under 18, they cannot have access to a gun. I think that guns are for personal protection and to protect your home and your property. So I think everyone in that house needs to know how to properly use a gun. And gun locks, I have senior citizen patients. They say, if I have a gun lock, I'm old. How can I run and get this gun out the safe? They keep their guns under their pillows. So you have to look at the whole outline, but people need their guns, but you have to teach kids, do not do vengeance. That's when you get bullying. Do not go on vengeance with these people. That's a parental issue. Do not teach vengeance for kids. That way they will not go out and try to shoot other kids if they're being bullied. Parental issue. But education is important. They all have to know how to use that gun and when to use it. It's not a toy.
Candidate Wendy Webster Jackson, thank you for that response. And of course, we do want to be cognizant and respectful of everybody's time. We appreciate you taking the time. Due to that, it's looking like we are not going to have time for closing statements. So with that, I will thank all of the candidates for your time and participating. And I'll turn things back over to Sally Jo or Lynn.
Good evening. I'm Lynn Lieberman. Thank you all for attending tonight. I am a state policy advocate for Michigan on behalf of National Council of Jewish Women and coordinator of the forums. I want to thank, on behalf of our Advocacy and Elections Committee, all of our candidates. We're delighted that you all were able to attend, provide your positions on these important issues. And Jen, I want to thank you so very much for your help on providing your moderate, let's start again. I want to thank you for being moderator for this particular session. I really appreciate that you're able to do it for us. A job well done. And of course, I would like to thank all of our attendees for tuning in tonight. We hope you've learned a lot and will be able to make decisions appropriate for you. Remember, your absentee ballots, if you're voting by absentee ballot, should be arriving any day now. Don't wait. Remember, even if you're going to the polls, that there are ballot proposals and you will vote as you see fit. If you're voting absentee, don't forget to turn over the ballot and don't forget to sign and date the back of the envelope. We want everyone's vote to count. Everyone, please stay safe, stay well, and thank you all for attending. And this concludes tonight's seminar.